filling in that it's like their podcast, but he has to watch the kids today because his wife's on spring break in Florida with her team. So I am the another round. Other option.
Yeah, so
we're glad to have
I guess we're back with another round with not Wesley.
I'm a fill-in.
You're fill-in, Morgan Melnicki. This is gonna be weird, but we're gonna make it happen. But who do we have today,
Thanks.
Morgan? I'll put you on the spot for doing the intros since you're so good at it on your new podcast, Morgan and Co.
Yes, I do have a podcast. You guys should go on my podcast.
Yeah,
It's
I would
fun to
love
know.
it.
Whoa,
We can do
I'm
both.
already off to a rough start. All right, already pitching another podcast and we're not even into this thing yet. Yeah, so let's see.
Okay, we have Colleen and Maria from MMRI. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks for
Thank you for
having
having us.
And I know we have you have a big event tomorrow. By the time this is out, it will already pass. But why don't you talk a little bit about what the MMRI Gala tomorrow will benefit? What's going on at MMRI? Give us the deets.
Yeah, so our event is the 1958 Gala. It's our second annual this year. And it really supports all of the research that we do. So we do cardiovascular, neurocognitive, and autoimmune. So that breaks down to like autism, PTSD, lupus research. And it's going to be a great night. It really helps our scientists be able to show the research that they're doing to the community because a lot of people don't know that we are right here in Utica. And so that's what it's all about.
Perfect. Don't you love how much everybody at the Institute just loves and knows everything that we do at MMRI?
Yeah.
Thank you.
The team was great. We met, a month or two ago?
Yeah, we went
And
in
just met with
to
you guys.
chatted.
Just the energy and all the stuff going on is just so fun. And I got to see it a little bit. My grandmother was there, Shirley Waters, for a while, and she appreciated everything that happened there. And George was there, so it was just fun to also see the back end and go through the labs, which is incredible. And everything that's going on there. Kind of like the business park. I feel like there's so many stories that aren't told enough, and like just the access of what's going on locally in Rome and Utica is just amazing. And to hear some of those stories is gonna be great and kind of get the background. But
Yeah, and Maria can tell you more about her story, but just from me being here for 2 years, like I can tell you that the difference in the building from before her to after her, like you guys got to tour an incredible space. Before that, I mean, it was like being in a basement.
Yeah. Well, we kind of joke it's like Radio Shack circa 1958, kind of the lights buzzing in the background. So we actually really did need to update the facility, and the board and all of the Masons have been really supportive in that regard. We invested, I think, over $20 million really to get new state-of-the-art equipment, to bring in top talent, and to create a space that will allow us to be able to do all the kinds of research that we need for cutting-edge technologies and new therapeutics for the future.
we kind of jumped right in there. A lot of titles, a lot of roles. Can you kind of go through what's the full resume here of your title and what you're doing at MMRI?
Oh, so okay.
I figured you do it because I'm gonna leave something out 'cause it was a lot.
I think I do a little bit of everything. So I'm a scientist first and foremost. I have a PhD in molecular medicine and pharmacology, and have spent most of my career really kind of doing a specific type of research called molecular biology. So I study what happens inside of a cell. And because of that, I can focus on every kind of cell within the body. So my background really is in cancer, but now my focus in my own lab is cardiovascular, everything that affects the heart. I work on autoimmune diseases and I work on brain diseases. I think it allows us to really kind of move from one place to another. My background is I got my PhD at Yale. I did my postdoctoral fellowship at Harvard, and I got an appointment there for 10 years before I moved here to Utica in 2018. And since that time, I've kind of adapted a lot of other roles in addition to being a scientist. I've kind of helped rebuild the organization, and I think really it's been a team effort. It was never always just me, but the group that we've recruited and built this institute with has really been instrumental in creating compliance and HR, marketing and development, the science has been phenomenal. We've been able to recruit great talent from all over the country because of the infrastructure that we've built here. And so now I oversee all of it, but my leadership team really, they're the ones that do all the heavy lifting.
That's so fun. Morgan and I were kind of joking about this guest is way above and
No,
way.
I actually feel dumb.
I know. I was like, "Where's Wes when we need him?" My friend is in cancer research. I think I can only touch on like folding and unfolding proteins. I think
that's
about
pretty good. That's pretty
That's where I can
good.
geek out
Yes.
a little bit. But that's
Yeah.
after that, I'm
I
out
think
of.
when she said, no joke, in my mind when you said, I'm a scientist, I was like, oh God. I'm like,
Science is fun. So, you were talking a little bit about what to do in your spare time. Science is kind of the core of who you are. It kind of, you live and breathe what you do. And you're always looking for ways to kind of find, if you look at it this way, could you solve that puzzle? Could you figure out how that works? And it really is about solving puzzles. So the other thing I like to do in my
just
spare
very,
time.
very, 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 very complicated puzzle.
Yeah, well, New York Times. I love the New York Times crossword puzzle. So that it's a lot like science, except there are answers. Science doesn't always have the answer, and especially when you're doing stuff that's cutting edge, you don't always know where you're going. And so we always talk to our scientists and tell them the data drive the results, and you have to be really careful about how you interpret those things because they really kind of set the stage for what you do next.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, like think of it like being an explorer in an uncharted area and not knowing really, not having a map of where you're going.
So I guess
Sounds awful.
It's awesome. It's amazing.
one of my questions.
Marketing.
I like knowing there's like a result I'm going to get at the end.
Well, you'll get a result. You
Yes.
just don't always know what it means.
Well, I get that. One of my questions was, how do you communicate science to the public better, and and why does that matter more than ever now with the way that social media is and anything can spread in a way? So how does that?
Yeah, so that's why I have my marketing team.
And a great one.
Yes, a very
We
great
have a good
team.
crew.
Marketing and communications, it's so important to be able to disseminate the information in a way that people can understand it. We're not really good at doing that because we get really excited and get caught up in the weeds a lot of times. But marketing can kind of take some of that information and really be able to distribute that knowledge in a way that I think it resonates with people, using information that people give us about their current situation. So if you have a family that's struggling with autism or having, cardiovascular disease, or someone they love has passed away from these diseases, their stories are really compelling. And I think that really is sort of the basis for trying to get to understanding why we do what we do and the problems that we try to solve as a consequence of that.
What first sparked your interest in science?
Interesting story. So I went to college for archaeology.
Oh,
I wanted to be an archaeologist. My favorite civilization were the Etruscans from Italy. And a part of learning how to do archaeology was carbon dating, so you can figure out dates of how old things might be. So I decided to take a couple chemistry classes in the process, and I ended up falling in love with chemistry. So being the nerd and sort of not knowing what my life was going to be, I decided to double major in classical archaeology and chemistry. And then to add to that, I wasn't sure that was going to go anywhere, so I decided to minor in business administration as well. It took me 5 years to get my undergrad degree, and I graduated still not knowing what I wanted to do, whether it was medical school or graduate school or whatever. I volunteered at the hospital, and I had this patient that came in. It was the emergency room. They had like a nail or something stuck in their toe, and they were pulling all the shoes and all that stuff off, and they were starting to do surgery to take this thing out, and I'm spinning around thinking, oh my God, like something's going on, and they had to like remove me. So I kind of figured that was probably not
Good
in
pivot.
my
Time to
future.
pivot.
Yeah, time to
Fair.
move, time to shift. So I ended up getting a job, still, graduated now, still no idea what I wanted to do. Got a job in a lab, and I started working on cell cultures and doing biology, I didn't know anything. I hadn't any real experience, even as a science major. So I worked for about 9 months in a research lab, and it was on cancer, which was really exciting. So just to tell you, I didn't know anything about cancer. I was just starting out. I was working with mouse cells, and I had an accident in the lab one day, and I spilt the media all over my legs. So I'm calling the, CDC. I spilt mouse cells on my body. They're cancer cells. Am I going to die of cancer? Am I going to get? I didn't know. I was 18 and 20 years old, 22, they said, I think they were trying to be really nice, and they asked me, well, are you a mouse? And I said, no, not a mouse. Not a mouse. They said, well, then you don't have to worry about getting a mouse cancer. So that was my first rule, like, okay, I really need to know a little more about what I'm working on. And I happened to be walking down the hall, and it was another friend of mine who was just as lost as I was. And he said, oh, what are you going to do? I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life. And I said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm thinking about this program called pharmacology. And I said, I don't know if I want to be a pharmacist. I don't know about dispensing drugs all day. He's like, you're an idiot. Not pharmacology, not pharmacy, pharmacology. Why don't you go look it up? So I went to my Tandy computer because that's,
Okay.
I'm dating myself now.
That's okay. It's all right.
So anyway, I looked it up, and pharmacology seemed to be perfect because it was the discovery of drugs that can help people, but without having to deal with one person at a time. So you could do it at like a 10,000-foot view. So I started to look up programs, figure out what I wanted to do. And my now husband, then boyfriend, had just moved to Connecticut. And he's like, I don't know, there's this school called Yale. I'm like, oh, what's that? What's that? I grew up in Florida. So, the borders of Florida were about as far as I could go. I thought I could go. And he said, you should look it up. So I looked it up. It was number 1 in pharmacology. So I said, okay, I'm going to apply. And by some miracle, because I was calling and harassing them every day, I think is why. I got accepted. Yeah, I got accepted. They were like, we got to get rid of this girl. Like, she's not harassing us. So I got in, and I can say that single-handedly changed the trajectory of my future. I started to be taught by the people whose books I had been reading. It was just an amazing experience. It changed the course of my life. And I had mentors along the way. I think that's one of the most important pieces is mentors that challenge you, who teach you, but also help promote you to do something more than you think you can do.
So looking at where you are now, how do you balance the demands of science, mentorship, and administration now that you've kind of already kind of became that person that you've already looked up to? Like, what was that change like? And then how do you manage that?
Yeah. So, a lot of people ask me that, especially as a woman, how do you balance everything? And I tell them, first of all, it's never a balance.
I was going to ask that next. Do you believe in work-life balance? And
it's a seesaw. And so you have to pivot when you need to focus on administrative stuff, you pivot there. If you have to go to family events, you have to pivot there. If you have to do science, you got to pivot there. Admittedly, you're basically a jack of all trades and a master of none. And you kind of have to just go in a motion to try to do as much as you can to succeed in as many pockets as you possibly can. But the key, I think, to being successful is trusting in a team that can take on a lot of that heavy lifting so that you can focus on the bigger things, on the overarching things.
And is that team how you avoid burnout, or are there other avenues that you use to avoid burnout?
Well, until January, I was pretty good at avoiding burnout because I had faith in the group that we've built. So we basically built everybody from scratch at MMRI. Everybody was hand selected and brought in because they're so talented and they can do so many wonderful things. And last year at this gala, I didn't even know what they were doing. I walked in like everybody else, just in awe of the work that they did. So having that trust is really important. And then, focusing on the things that matter becomes kind of the major hurdle. And most challenges I can take face on. I really enjoy doing them. But, what's been changing lately, from a political and administrative, without going into a lot of details, I can tell you that those changes are directly affecting us in a way that I can't control or change or manage. And that has been a real source of anxiety. So worrying about the future of science, not just at Masonic Medical Research Institute, but across the nation, across the world, the impacts that cutting research dollars right now is going to have will be lasting. I hear a lot of people saying temporary, and it may be true for some people, but for those people where it isn't, and doors close and research stops because they can't continue their science, that will never come back. And you don't know that if you close the door on that particular project at this time, it wasn't something that could have led to the next major discovery.
That's a good way. I'm mind blown. I'm like thinking about what she's saying. I'm like, holy crap. What is, I guess, can you talk about I know you're very involved with the Heart Association. What are you working on right now that like involves or impacts the Mohawk Valley?
So in cardiovascular, you mean in terms of research?
And just in general, yeah.
So the American Heart Association is an incredible organization, international actually, and I have a leadership role on the national level. I'm the chair of the Basic Cardiovascular Sciences Council for AHA, which is about 5,000 members. And that trickles down to what happens here at the Mohawk Valley because the fundraising that happens here locally goes to the national chapter, but then we, scientists, apply for grants and compete across the country for these grants and bring that money back when we're awarded those funds here to the Mohawk Valley. Our cardiac research really spans everything from children's heart diseases, rare diseases in particular, that's my specialty, but we also focus on heart attacks, stroke, inflammation, post-COVID consequences, long COVID. We focus on structural abnormalities in the heart that need surgical correction or other methods to fix. And then we work with pharmaceutical companies to find drugs that can actually help treat those individuals as well.
The long COVID thing is interesting. I do have a friend that is battling that. He's traveled all over the country, and he's kind of shed some light actually how many people have it, but they're not as public about it, whether they're figures or whatever, and he's gone into that. But yeah, I actually talked with him, and he's just like, I can't get out of it. Like, we're waiting on research. There's research all over the country, but I don't think there's a lot of awareness of how many people are actually being affected by this and like not going away. Yeah. So it was interesting to hear that.
So true. So one of our investigators, Dr. Zichung Lin, who came from Boston Children's Hospital, is focusing all his attention on long COVID because it has a significant impact. It's impacted himself and a lot of other people he knows. So not to mention just the fatigue that's associated with having long COVID, the brain fog. But in my opinion, I think what COVID did was potentiate aging for people. And so if you were predisposed to developing some ailment as you got older, it only accelerated the development of those things much sooner. And the truth is, COVID was a great experiment for the world because it was a single virus that affected almost all of us. If you haven't had COVID, you probably have, you just don't know it. But all viruses do that. Just you don't notice it so much because it hasn't ever been a global problem. But other viruses that people get can lead to cancer. They can cause neurocognitive dysfunction. They can cause cardiovascular diseases, autoimmune diseases. So we're actually focusing a lot of our attention now on the impact viruses really do have on our health in a way that we never knew before. beyond genetics and beyond other pieces. Sometimes you need 2 hits. We call them 2 hits. You have to have the genetic predisposition for something, but the virus is the trigger, the environmental trigger that turns everything on.
I have so many questions, but I'm not going to geek out. I'm not going to go there. So we're going to try to keep moving on. Sorry, go ahead.
I said, I think I'm getting smarter just sitting here. But honestly, when you were talking about heart association, I think that's obviously so special. I am involved heavily with heart association. So to be able to say when we're raising money that the money gets to come back here to do research in the Mohawk Valley is just like a really neat benefit that not a lot of national organizations have. So thank you.
You're welcome. Well, thank my investigators. They're doing all the hard work.
I think with that, like, I know you're explaining all, like, so much detail. What does your day-to-day look like?
Every day is different. And I would lie if I told you I didn't have a plan. I usually come into work and I have a list of stuff I need to take care of. And 5 o'clock will come and none of that is taken care of because
usually someone like me walks in the door.
I need this,
like,
this.
hey, can you look at this?
Yeah. So like it's a constant, you have to pivot, like you said before. You have to kind of do the stuff that you have to do first, and then everything else kind of gets pushed aside. And so I would say my day normally starts around 5 o'clock when everyone else is gone, and then I can focus on some of the other things that I need to take care of. The one thing I will say I am completely delinquent in, and everyone who's maybe watching this and has emailed me knows, I'm terrible with email. Terrible. Because that is the last thing on my list when I have to take care of all these other things. That's usually the last priority item for me. And so I will get to it when I can get to it. And usually sometimes it can be a day if it's an answer like yes or no, but it can be 2 weeks sometimes when I'm traveling or when I'm doing all these other things.
Yeah, the bottle of bourbon comes out at night when the kids go to bed, and you're like, I can focus on this. But I just transitioned to, I have a little pad that says "Get shit done" on the bottom, but there's only 3 lines that I can say that has to get done that day. Because, like you said, you're always pivoting when you're in the office or the other projects or when you're jumping between things, and that's where the burnout kind of happens. But as long as you can get like that done at some point, it's been better and easier to deal with.
I do have to say though, like from a outside point of view, like she really is great about getting the admin side of it done, but then getting the science part of it done too. Because like she said, like that is her heart, is the science part, and so she really does do a good job of doing both.
Oh, thank you.
Sounds like you need an assistant or 2.
I have 67. But the truth is, I'm glad. Thank you for saying that. I always feel like I'm never doing enough. And I think that could be maybe a quality of people who always are kind of like striving to do a little more. But it's definitely a flaw and a strength. To always want to do a little more, but never feel like you do enough also. So it's a tough balance.
You're in the right room.
Yeah.
What with that, I guess, how do you wind down from the day then?
Crossword puzzles. My mornings with my husband are my wind down time. So it's our quiet time. We don't even always have to say anything.
Love that.
We just have to sit together, have our cup of coffee. He's kind of my anchor. Sometimes we joke and I'm like, you're ball and chain. He calls himself like the ball and chain and I'm a kite. And he kind of keeps me from like flying off into La La Land. I think that's a really good analogy because he's kind of the bedrock of stability, and I'm kind of all over the place all the time. So, and
what's his career in?
He's an artist.
Oh, okay.
He's a product designer.
He is a smart cookie himself.
I think,
fun.
yeah, he likes to brag that we met in high school actually. So he likes to brag that he got an A in physics and I got a B+. So, so he's definitely smarter than me. He has his own company, so he works from home, and it's just been super flexible. And it's awesome that we don't talk about work in a way that he understands or I understand, because then, we can just be like, oh, honey, that's awful. Yeah.
Wait, I just remembered. Wait, is the artwork in an MRI, like, isn't there something special about that?
So
is there some of his artwork, or am I making that up?
The roof.
Oh, so yes. So when we were renovating the building, he would walk around with me, and I had to pivot from scientist to architect, which was not easy. And then we were walking outside, and he he's standing like outside of a window or a door at that time, and he's like, you know what? Why don't you turn this space into a break room roof deck for people when the weather's really nice? And I was like, that's a great idea.
We appreciate it. We love it. We use it every day when we
That's
can.
Yeah, so that was him. He hasn't done any real artwork, although he has offered. He does a lot of stuff for Munson Williams, so I'm going to shout out for them. They've been amazing for artistic minds like his. He loves to dabble, so he's picked up pottery. So he's been taking pottery there every semester.
I've seen some of it. It's good.
Yeah, so he wants to offer that for auction items. He thinks it's worth a lot.
Are there mugs?
Yeah. No, he likes to do
Like the big bowls.
vases,
Oh, okay.
beautiful vases,
Yeah.
actually. They're actually really nice. So Munson has a great policy. You're not really allowed to sell any of it because you're taking it as a class.
Right.
But he can
Auction it.
donate it, and it can be auctioned for a not-for-profit. So, that could be an option.
So maybe
all-
magically tomorrow
I'll
night
keep
you'll
that
see
in
a
mind.
piece.
Yes.
All
yeah.
it needs is one big bid. And
That's
that can
right.
launch the career
Yes,
of pottery.
I know.
That's how art works. So.
He's thinking about. He's like, "What am I going to do when I retire?" I said, "Well, you could be that guy in the back that's like making this like gigantic pot, and I'll be in the front trying to sell it." And I said, "I could also sell my salsa and guacamole on the side."
Baklava.
Yes,
If
and
you ever
baklava.
want baklava,
Yeah, I love to cook
Request
if
it.
I have time. If I had time, I would love it.
she
more.
makes it once a year for us
Please
at
let
work.
us know when that day is.
Add it
right
to our
before the
calendar.
holidays usually.
The email goes out and everyone runs.
Yeah, swarms.
runs.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
You didn't know that? Oh my gosh, swarms. And then it's like, I'll tell you a secret. I always grab a piece for Nicole. Nicole doesn't eat it.
Oh.
And I just say, yeah, this piece is for Nicole.
Oh, nice.
And then I get two.
Well, now you just told all of them on my stuff. So Colleen takes an extra piece.
So
You're gonna
you're
have to
going to
bring
be actually
double.
baking, and he's going to be actually selling in the front of
Yes,
the store.
that's right.
That's all going to come
So
around.
he's always joking. He's like, they're going to do an expose on you, like, where are they now? And you're going to be dressed like a gypsy outside peddling like salsa and guacamole, like, that's okay. I'm okay with that.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
So what brought you to the Utica area initially?
So funny story. I was the director of research at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, and I was kind of looking for a new opportunity that had a lot more leadership. I had great leadership there, but I didn't have a budget. I didn't really have a chance to hire people, and I didn't have an opportunity to really kind of grow a department in my vision. It was always like what exists, when you're at a large institution, it's a lot of layers of bureaucracy, and there's very little movement that can shift from one side to the other. So a recruiter actually called me and brought up, this opportunity here in Utica. So I'm looking on my computer trying to figure out where is Utica. Because she said New York, and of course I'm thinking the city.
Yeah, as most do.
Yes.
So I'm looking on the map, and I'm like, where is this place? So I realized it was latitude exactly west of Boston and 4 hours north still of New York City. So I said, I don't know if this is, the right opportunity for me. I'm kind of a city gal. And she said, well, they really are interested in having someone like you who has experience in leadership and mentorship and building something. So we'd really like for you to come and take a look. She mentioned that this was a Masonic organization, and I was the chair of the Joint Committee for the Status of Women at Harvard Medical School. So I kind of felt like maybe it wasn't the right fit. I wasn't sure because I knew it was a fraternity. I didn't know a lot about the Masons. But I felt like as a woman, it may not have been the right fit. But she said, I understand. Let me get back to you. I'll let you know. And then she called me a few months later, and she said, they're still very interested in your application. We really want you to come and take a look. And by the way, they said, you're not going to just be treated like and I said, I'm worried I would be treated like an inferior. And she said, well, you're not going to be treated like an inferior. You're going to be better than equal. So for me, that was kind of the selling point. And I've come to really realize how generous philanthropic and supportive the Masons really are in this community, and that they care a lot about the research and they care a lot about the science that comes out of this institution. So I came. I had no expectations. The other way they kind of got me to come is they said, well, you could consult. If you aren't interested, just consult and tell us what we should do. Mm-hmm. So I had no expectations, showed up here, and I was blown away, actually, because it's not what it was the possibility of what it could be. Mm-hmm. And one of the board members actually said that, and that was... at that point, I was like, okay, where do I sign? And knowing that you can build something like that from scratch, really kind of develop the research in a way that you think is going to be impactful and make a difference in people's lives was a game changer. And everyone who's been brought in, from the admin to the science, believe in that mission. And I think for a successful organization to continue to be successful, everyone has to buy into the mission. If they don't believe it, they shouldn't be there.
Yeah, 2 feet in, all the way. That's awesome.
All the way.
Yeah.
All the way. And, one of my colleagues, my first recruit, Jason McCarthy, says, failure is not an option. So we all believe that.
Just a lighthearted, there we go. Utica spots where you're going to grab a drink,
stole my
or
question.
I knew that was coming, so I wanted to do this to you. So I knew it was coming, so I just gonna step in front of it.
Am I allowed to say? Because I expect royalties. No, kidding.
But yeah, food stop, drink stop.
Oh my God,
where's the go-tos?
I am a foodie, and I'm a bit of a food snob even, but I love all the places here in Utica. I love the authenticity. I love the different cultural food that you can grab here. One of my favorites, Taylor and the Cook, Modus, Ocean Blue, Nostro's. I mean, those are Utica places, but, even outside in New Hartford, there's some really fabulous places that I really have enjoyed. So we really have had a great time exploring the food. I'm dying to try this new Silk place.
I have to try it too. I haven't tried it yet.
Yes, I haven't. I tried to go last weekend. They were full, so we couldn't get in.
That's a good thing, though.
It's
Good
a
for
great
them, yeah.
thing. But desserts and drinks, I don't know. Can you beat that? I could bypass dinner and just go straight for that.
I could try that.
Yeah.
Another one, I was at a client meeting yesterday in Brooklyn. Brisket came up.
Brooklyn Pickle?
No, Brooklyn Brisket.
Brooklyn Brisket.
I never heard of it.
4.6 stars, 132 ratings already.
Wait, where is
and
Brooklyn
I've
Brisket?
heard it's on Genesee Street.
Oh, is that a new barbecue place?
Yes.
Oh, I can't
159
wait.
Genesee Street. I was like, never heard of it.
All right,
that
guys,
sounds amazing. So we gotta hit that
we
up.
need to go there next week or something.
We gotta make that happen.
That sounds wonderful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, where is it? Genesee?
Yeah, it's
Oh.
it's
it was the
159
whole
Genesee
bio.
Street. Yeah. Well, I had to look it up as soon as he said it because I know I love brisket. I love that
Brooklyn
kind of food.
Brisket.
I think it's over by the old Freeman Jewelry.
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah.
used to be like on the corner there. It's like
Mm-hmm.
one
gotcha.
block over.
Yeah,
Brooklyn Biscuit, say that 5
I love
times
that. I love
fast.
that little. Yeah,
Yes.
there's so many little things
All right,
I
we're gonna
never
have
would
to try.
have.
Is it open already?
It is.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It is. Small little one. What was my
I
next
can't believe you stole
one?
my question. All right, I'll ask the next one.
Oh, yeah, you gonna go? You gonna go? Your turn?
Okay, yeah.
Usually
I'm-
Wes just hits me. He's like, it's his turn, but this
Well,
is
yeah,
the
you-
new dynamic. We're working on the dynamic here. We're working on the flow.
This is a one and done.
Well, you never know.
Are you a coffee, tea, or energy drinker?
I am a
What do you say?
coffee drinker. I think I'm trying to cut back, but I could basically be tied to an IV bag. And I drink coffee all day. And we have Utica coffee in the lab. We splurge because all scientists are drinking 24/7 in the lab.
You can feel the difference though. Like when
Yeah.
you have Utica coffee and you
Yes.
don't, like you can feel.
Yes, absolutely. It's amazing.
We have that and 2 espresso machines.
And we have 2
Just in case
wonderful
one's being used,
espresso machines.
There's no
state of the
line.
art. Yeah,
We need to
have
step up our game. We don't have that.
Yeah.
Scientists are big coffee drinkers, and as a non-coffee drinker, you just see them going 24/7.
Yes,
know, yeah.
nonstop. That is the elixir of the gods.
That's fair. What's your favorite science myth or misconception you love debunking?
Oh gosh, there's one big one right now. Vaccines cause autism. Totally false.
Okay. Heard it here.
Completely false. And we have, we and others have a lot of evidence to prove that that's true. It's been published, debunked for 20 years. but yet it continues to rise to the occasion of public press.
I'm going to start using that. I sound really smart. I'll be like, this is a fun fact.
Yes.
Perfect. Oh gosh, what was my question just going to be? If you weren't, what?
No, that was a good one.
Yeah, well,
Because I saw something on YouTube. I was wondering if you're going to bring that up because I know you mentioned it. So I saw it somewhere doing research that you mentioned it one other spot.
Oh, okay.
We're debunking it somewhere. I'll have to find it again. But I was wondering if that was going to.
we should like go back and forth and see whose questions are better.
All right, fine, go ahead. What do you got now? What do you got?
See, mine's already better.
Let's see it.
What's one thing on your bucket list you haven't crossed off yet?
Oh, well, so one of the amazing things about this career, so my brother calls us lab rats, scientists, that he thinks we're all introverted and we kind of stay in the lab. It's actually, I've traveled and I've seen the whole world.
Love it.
It's one of the most amazing perks of being a scientist. You talk about your science everywhere. But the two places on my bucket list, Egypt and Morocco,
Okay.
that I've never gone, and I wish that I had gone. I think when I was younger, of course, it's like
The
that
archaeology thing coming out.
archaeology thing,
Yeah,
all of that. Yeah, I really, those are the two places, and then Italy. Really going into the archaeological sites, Pompeii and Herculaneum in Italy would be amazing. I haven't done those things because I always travel for work, and it's always like the big city just outside the airport. So I haven't had a chance to explore as much as I'd like. Other bucket list, if I had an alternate career, Formula One racing.
You know who's done that? I think Alicia's done that.
Oh, really?
I think she did that in
Have you done
Florida.
the experience in Florida?
I think she did it in Florida.
I got it for my husband for his birthday one year, and I think he had a Ferrari that he got to race around. I think that's always fun, but I think it was too slow. Like I could watch it, and he thought he was going super fast, but I was like, oh, I could do a lot faster.
So are you into cars or is it the speed thing? What
The
aspect
speed.
of it? Is it?
I am one speeding ticket probably away from jail.
Yeah.
I love
I
the
was
speed.
going to say that, but I didn't want to throw you
You're
under
in the
the
right
bus.
room. You're in the right room.
I
I
should
love
if mine got
speeding.
cleared this
Yes,
week.
I hate to say it. I hate to admit it, but it's true. The speed. It's the adrenaline.
So do you have like a summer driver then that like you can get some of this? Like speeding tickets got to come for some reason. Do you have a
I
car
know
of
a few
choice?
lawyers. Let me
Yes.
put it that way.
Okay.
But I have had to pay my fair share.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Do you have a summer sports car?
We
It's an
do.
all-year-round sports car.
Well, so I my car's not a sports car because I had the family car, of course. It was
There's got to be one.
Yeah, but it is a fast car.
It still goes
So
fast, guys.
We'll make it.
I have a BMW, so I love to drive the
Oh,
BMW.
yeah.
But for my husband, for him / me, I bought him a 72 Jag.
Ooh.
Yes, so it's a convertible. So that's the summer car.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, so would you rate my question 1 out of 10?
All right, we'll battle that later.
11.
All right. Well, all right. So you get to have dinner with any scientist, dead or alive. Who are you choosing, and what are you asking them?
Oh gosh. Oh man. I mean, there's so many.
I know. I know.
I think if I could go back in time, it would be Marie Curie.
Okay.
Because she and I think she was challenged with sort of trying to win the Nobel Prize. She won 2. And her
Gotcha.
daughter won the Nobel Prize. I mean,
Oh.
it's just an incredible family. To develop and to discover radiation, I think, is really cool.
Sorry, we were just
That
having
was
a moment
that's
there.
on my list.
That was on hers too, but I stole it. So no, that's great. Man, poor husbands. I mean, how do you live up to that?
Well, he
that-
was a scientist too,
Oh,
but
well.
I think she was the pioneer,
Okay.
really.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, on my podcast that I just started, I do a lightning round, and so it's like fast questions. It could be for both of you.
Yes, let's do it together.
Yeah. Questions that are like short or like rather short answers, one word. What do you keep your house temperature at?
72.
67.
Thank you. We had one person that said like 58, and I was like,
That's a little
I will
too
take your
cold.
kids in.
I mean, trying to
That's
burn
a little too
calories,
cold.
trying to shake. I don't know. There's got to be a play there.
It says 72, but it feels like it's 65.
Oh.
So, yeah.
okay. Early bird or night owl?
Definitely night owl.
Early.
Coffee or tea?
Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew? Colleen.
Mountain Dew.
There's got to be some scientific research
can
on
yell
Mountain Dew.
at
I still
Yeah.
need to get Maria.
all right.
Everybody else gets coffee in the building. I need just like a fridge full of Mountain Dew. If we
gotta
can
work on
put
that.
that in.
Oh my God! Like, did I mention we study disease?
That's what I was saying. There's got to be some research on the wall somewhere.
No. Like, all right,
Like-
we got to switch that out.
I'll be the next.
The sugar intake. Yeah.
We're actually working on an anti-inflammatory cocktail. I'm going to just throw that pitch out there because it's
Yes,
coming
please
down
tell
the
us.
pike. You can put it in any drink except perhaps something like Mountain Dew.
Well, we can test it. I'll test it for you.
Because it might negate all the benefits associated. But we're trying to sort of think about putting it into a drink of some sort, or even having it be like a little tea bag. You put it in coffee or tea or water. But we have created a cocktail based on our science, but also on some ingredients we've done for a long time. So we're hoping to launch that soon, and hopefully some.
Is this the first time we're talking about it publicly?
I am.
Yes. Lucky you guys.
It's here. It's,
found our
you
lead.
know,
Yes.
yes.
That's
You
so
got
cool.
the exclusive.
Thank you. Ooh. Most used app on your phone.
Ooh. Probably the news app.
Mine's,
So you mean the Daily Sentinel app?
Yes. Yes, that's what I meant.
mine's probably Facebook, just because I'm always checking everything
Yeah.
for us, trying to keep us up
Yeah.
to date.
I'm a troller on Facebook. I don't always ever
Yeah.
respond to things, but I'm a voyeur.
You
That's
like
a
to
good- yeah,
look at the
it's better.
drama?
It's easier that way.
What's that?
You like to scroll the drama?
I like to see, but then it becomes like all ads.
Yeah,
because when you don't respond on Facebook, they have nothing to show you, so you're just looking at ads. So I kind of had to put it down for a while.
Lab coat or business suit?
It's a business. It's jeans most of the time, if I can help it.
Oh, definitely jeans.
I'm like, Colleen. One word that your colleagues would use to describe you.
OCD.
Loudmouth.
Well, that's a good one. I mean, I love that. Dream vacation destination. Well, Colleen.
Maria's grease house.
Maria, that is
Oh.
also
I should
my.
do that for the staff, actually.
Can I be a temporary MRI employee?
Yes. So I've auctioned a vacation to Greece, usually at our events.
Is that available
Is
tomorrow?
that available tomorrow?
It was available last year, and Jackie and John Romano were the winners.
Okay.
We're still in the process of planning that trip. I haven't really done my house because it's a little small, but it could work.
That's
It
totally
could
fine.
work. It could work. I think we could do that to make it a staff Christmas,
Christmas in Greece sounds amazing.
I'm sorry.
not for Christmas, but like to as a gift. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sentinel, what do you guys got over there? What you?
Wait.
What do you
wait.
auction out?
I might not.
I
I'm
actually
sorry.
don't have any Christmas plans.
I'm sorry. My properties are in Old Forge, New York, and not Greece. But
We could trade. We could trade for the
We can trade.
summer.
We can do
Perfect.
that.
We would love to trade. I don't own it, but we
we
would
can
love
fit
to.
32 people between the two. You can have the
Oh,
whole staff
yeah.
up. Go
Oh,
on
see?
the
We
full
should
chains.
gladly trade for Greece.
We
But-
do have an all-staff meeting that sounds
But
like
to
we
be
could
fair,
handle that.
the travel time you put in is hefty. I mean, you were just in California, back to Florida, Florida, California, Italy.
I do. I travel
Sounds
a lot.
like a
Did you just
good
get
life,
back from
Morgan.
California?
Yes, I just got back from California. I was supposed to go
Yeah,
to Boston
solid
this weekend.
hybrid
I go
model
to
we have for Impact
Florida
X.
next weekend.
Mark-
What are you doing there?
My family's all over. So I have like family in California, so I'll go visit them. My mom's in Florida for the winter, so I go see her.
Wow.
I have friends in Boston. You gotta take advantage.
Oh
so,
yeah, you
yeah.
absolutely have to do that.
I constantly be out, but yeah, but I get my work done.
Yeah.
One
Good
time I
answer.
quit. I was like, I'm quitting, like joking, and he was like, "It's fine. You can quit in Greece and Boston." That's fine.
Yeah, good enough. So I guess kind of wrapping up a little bit, like what are some of the major goals, or even if it's a hurdle that MMRI has on their plate that is either short term or long term, it's kind of on your mind and something that you really want to see come out of that kind of lab?
Oh, that's a loaded question. So, we had visions of growth. We have a piece of property we bought in downtown Utica. We were looking at a building to renovate down there before the holidays and had big plans to kind of keep growing. We want to create for-profit entities some of the things, the anti-inflammatory I talked about, but other components of the IP that's being developed to really kind of grow and make this a biotech hub here in Utica. I think a lot has changed in the last couple of months, and I mentioned it before, but my biggest anxiety right now is sustainability, and can we survive what's happening, because about 40% of our budget depends on NIH grants or DoD grants. The foundations are holding down. Pharmaceutical companies are worried. Basically, all the funding that supports research is completely evaporated overnight, and I'm terrified of what that's going to do, not just to MMRI, but everybody in research in the country. Already we're seeing major cuts, jobs, scientists, young people. That's my biggest concern, is these trainees are seeing what's happening and they're vacating. So even if things come back to normal, like people say, we won't have anyone in place to take that on. So it's a major concern.
Can I go?
No, yeah, fine. No, the floor is yours.
Perfect, thank you. With it being Women's History Month in March, that's kind of the reason that I started a podcast. What is some advice that you'd give to young women that are entering your field?
I would say, persevere, have grit, determination, don't give up. Things will turn around, hopefully, by the time they're in a position that will require them to run their own labs. But the enjoyment of being able to do your own research, to answer questions that you really care about, to change people's lives, that is the kind of career that you can't have very easily in anything else. So I would say keep going.
Perfect.
So kind of go back to the for-profit side. Are you saying because is it like kind of trying to get the startups going so you can get private money involved and then that backs it and then you hopefully sell a product to the bigger guys and get almost like an M&A thing?
Yeah.
So that's kind of got to be the new model going forward? Yeah.
So we're actually just now in the process of redoing our strategic plan, so 2026 to 2030, and we have to pivot here too. We went from sustainability to now this next round will be sustainability and success. Mm-hmm. My focus 100% is how do I keep MMRI going? Mm-hmm. And that means that I can't depend on the revenue stream that we thought we had. We're not a hospital, so we don't have clinical dollars that support MMRI. Mm-hmm. We don't have a faculty or a academic appointment, so we don't have tuition that helps support the research. All we had was grants. And we had philanthropy, which it's a trickle-down effect. Okay, so if the economy is doing poorly, philanthropy is doing poorly. Mm-hmm. So state money is going away, philanthropy is going away. Now the grants are going away. We have nothing. So we need to figure out a way to create sustainability by moving these companies into a profitable space, mm-hmm. And a venture space that will help support the research.
Yeah, it seems like MMRI could be big enough to be that stepping stone for some. So, I mean, is it almost all startup, or is there opportunity to acquire to kind of fast track? Because I know things have a long runway, and that can take a lot of time to show return. So, like, is that kind of like trying to figure that part out? Because acquisitions aren't cheap, and also you're taking gambles on them too. But it kind of sounds like a Innovari, like DoD kind of thing that could be foreign, because you have the top secret stuff that's happening, but Innovari kind of feeds. They go both ways with it. They, the stuff that gets declassified then goes over to Innovari. They can expand it out to the public, and then vice versa. Trials going that way. So is that kind of like the marriage between the two that are hoping to come out of this?
Exactly. I mean, I don't think we're in a position where we can acquire companies at this juncture, but certainly we have some IP that we're developing to create opportunities. The runway is a major concern. I think that was a very good point that you made. It is very concerning. We're hoping that we've established some partnerships already that will help potentiate that and help it move faster, fast track it. But definitely this is exactly that kind of, we already created a holding company that can help facilitate some of that to carry the for-profit piece and then be able to return that revenue back to MMRI.
That's awesome. No, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Great. What a great pivot. And it's just things you just have to do. Like, when you have to do something too, it makes it easier to just go ahead and do it. 'Cause it's that lifeline. It can be a lifeline.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I will say is, I started out my career, forget like I didn't know what I wanted to do for a long time, but as a scientist, and have morphed, I think all of us, as we've come into working at MMRI, have morphed into something so much bigger and so much greater, and have the opportunity to give back and do so many more things than we ever imagined.
That's awesome. Well, I learned a lot. How about you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually smarter now. after this recording.
Well, thanks for coming on. This is so cool, and I hope there's a couple of things we can follow up with you guys too. I think there's some great story opportunities as well, and we got to know what the name of the product is at some point and see what comes out of that.
We'll tell you when we know the name.
Yeah,
we haven't made a name
you
yet.
guys can get the exclusive.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes.
If people want to learn more about MMRI or what you guys are doing, how can they find you?
We actually just launched a brand new website, mmri.edu, so they can check us out on there. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all the socials.
Perfect.
And then they can also follow all of the scientists because we make them all have socials too. So if you want to know exactly what they're working on, you can do it there too.
How cool.
That's
Thank you,
awesome.
guys.
Thanks again, and good luck tomorrow. Huge
Yes.
event. Can't wait to be there. So
Thank you. Can't wait to see you guys.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
so much for having us.
Thank you.